issues, like what's always tight, what needs a lot of extra warm up. Just drop that in the chat. We are going to go through some stretches for pretty much everything, but it'd be helpful to kind of know where to read the room here a bit. Okay, we got hips, yeah. Neck, interesting one. Shoulders, left knee, very specific. Yeah, the knees can be trouble spots. I would say shoulders and knees are generally the most common, but we'll work through everything today. And of course, any questions, drop them in the chat. I do have a short training that really simplifies this because there's a lot of confusion, like everything, everything in the fitness space. People tend to overcomplicate it. So we're going to try to simplify it to what really is going to move the needle most for you in the least amount of time and prioritize what needs to be prioritized. So we got a decent group today. We'll take that on a middle of July Wednesday. Not always the best for attendance. So stiff, here's what the research says about stretching and why it might be more powerful than you think. So this is the first one that I did an Instagram post on recently. Like, you're not just tight from old age. Old age, I'm including myself in that bucket. It's often a nervous system issue. Like, nope, not going there, not comfortable going there. And your brain kind of holds you back when there's probably more range than you think. And that's trainable. Okay, so your brain has to get used to going a little further in range over time, because as we get older, you see a kid naturally can squat to full depth. And as we get older, our joints get a little more beat up and there's some wear and tear. And plus, we just don't move our bodies in ways that are supportive of mobility. So then we get in these places where we can only do a quarter squat without pain, and we're limited in so many ways. So how do we improve that? That's what today's all about. So first is the real simple protocol. I would take a screenshot of this, or even throw your phone up, take a photo of this, because this is really the low-hanging fruit. Protocol to improve mobility is holding stretches, static stretches, 30 seconds at a time. Ideally, you do it for 2 to 4 times in a sequence, like you would a set in the gym. 3 sets, rest between, repeat. So that could be simply trying to touch your toes, bent over, hamstring stretch, wherever you feel it, stop there, hold for 30 seconds, repeat 2 to 4 times. That counts as 1 day. And you're trying to do this as often as possible, up to 5 days a week. Okay, so I've been experimenting with this, my hamstring stretch. I can now touch not my full palm, but my fingertips on the floor without feeling like super uncomfortable. And that used to be a good 3, 4, 5 inches higher up. So that's simply from doing this consistently for 2 weeks. So I'm kind of bullish on how far we're going to get this, because I've always said, I've got tight hamstrings. Nothing will change that. And so far, so good with this. Okay. So we'll go through some other stretches like we talked about off the top. That's why I asked what you're dealing with, so that we can really get into specifics for each. But hopefully this makes sense so far. So for a back movement, you might actually hang from a pull-up bar and hold that for 30 seconds. Okay to have your toes touchy, but really try to stretch, right? That's one option. We'll get into a few more, but essentially something you can do easily in the comfort of your home, ideally, and you can do it this much, because then it ends up being 5 minutes a week. Really makes a huge difference when it comes to our range of motion, our flexibility. All right. Caveat is, before a workout, skip the long static stretches. We never program these into your workouts. We do dynamic warm-ups. Big difference. Because static stretching before weight training temporarily reduces like power output performance. Before rec sports, you won't be as fast, essentially. Okay. So the better sequence is thinking like hip swings, like we put this all into your programs already, right? Where it's just more of a active form of stretching, whereas you might be doing shoulder rotations with a band, hip swings I talked about. There are some stretches that don't put you in a static position for long. It's a little different when it comes to your hips. You can kind of hold a static stretch there and not have it affect performance, but a muscle that's stretched, we best avoid that pre-workout. And the best form of warm-up is just grooving the movement you're doing with lighter weights as warm-up sets. That's going to work better than trying to static stretch and force some blood into the joint. And then stretch after workout. And there's a technique we'll kind of talk about as well here. Okay, type of one in the chat. If I'm not losing you, if all is making sense so far. I don't want to jump too far ahead. We got any ones? No ones in the chat. Everyone's confused. There we go, Jackie. Thanks for bailing me out. All right, they're flooding in now. So if you want better mobility, lift weights through a full range of motion. Okay, because this doubles as not only good stretch, but a muscle under load that's stretched is actually going to have more effective mobility than, say, static yoga positions. Not to say yoga doesn't have its place, but if we're trying to kill two birds with one stone here, strength training through a full range is our best tool for the job. So that just means getting as low as you can on a squat, a split squat as low as you can, again, remaining deadlift as low as you can with good form. And hopefully over time, that range of motion actually gets more expanded, right? Like I talked about off the top, where now with my hamstrings, I can touch my fingertips to the ground. Okay. So most of you are already doing this by default. Just keep in mind, am I shortening the rep range before I really have to, like trying to get to a fully stretched position? Sometimes we see half reps with things like bicep curls, right? The dumbbell should go all the way to the floor, fully extended at the elbow. That's the bottom position. And then come as high as you can up to the top. All right. Okay. So there's some evidence that stretching does benefit hypertrophy as well. This was a few years ago. There was all this hype around a study out of Tampa. Prolonged stretching increases muscle size. This is uncomfortable stuff. I'll talk about how much stretching is involved here and what's realistic, what's not. But it's mechanical tension really is the key. There's three components to muscle building, right? Mechanical tension is the force on the muscle. So that's the most important part for you, is like having a few reps near the end of a set really challenge you, where the speed of the rep slows down because you can't go any faster and you're getting close to failure, not fully. That's step one for sure, but stretching may fit into that bucket, play a small role as well. Whereas the other two are just, muscle damage, the micro tears from training that have to be repaired and grow, and metabolic stressors, more that pumped feeling, that burn you get from higher rep work, which does play a role as well. Okay. So when a muscle is loaded, it experiences high mechanical tension. I talked about that. So the benefit to this is like, whereas yoga can't replicate this because it's just your own body weight, if you have weight and you're doing a stretched movement, you're really creating a high amount of mechanical tension. Good thing from our perspective. If you're looking to tone up, to simplify it, that's what we want as much as possible. Okay, so I'm going to go into these, so don't worry too much about this slide. This is where I first was introduced to this. Extreme stretching, they call it. It was DC Training Dog Crap was the guy's username on the muscle building boards, and he came up with this method initially. And it was all like bro science, like we don't know if this actually works, but now that the research has come out and shows some evidence, this would be one way to incorporate those static holds into your training without having to do it apart from your workouts already. You just, the last set of a dumbbell fly, you're holding that bottom position as this picture depicts for upwards of 30 to 60 seconds. But again, if it's starting to feel in your shoulder joint, drop the weight, right? You want to feel really good stretch in your muscle, not obviously the shoulder joint. So keep that in mind. Those timelines are really just a suggestion. Okay. For back, it might be, it's hard to, you could just do from a door, right? If you got a secure door, just grab it and hold. It's a little more effective from a pull-up bar if you have access to one. And that's where you hang for, again, 30 to 60 seconds. There was a study way back with birds where they hung them for, I think it was like 24 hours, and their wingspan was, increased substantially. I don't think they'd be able to do a study like that nowadays. But then that was extrapolated to, okay, maybe we could do this with bodybuilders. Their backs will grow large as well, but within reason. They're not going to hang bodybuilders up for 24 hours. Shoulders. This is a decent example, you just grab something secure and hold and pull, lean away, and hopefully you'll feel it in your shoulder. If you don't, adjust your palm, adjust your grip. Quad would just be one like this. Maybe support yourself with the other hand, and then you're just pulling up gently on your ankle. Should feel a good stretch in your quad. Hamstrings, we talked about the version where you're touching the floor, but you can also do one with your heel up on a bench. Try to touch your toes, hold for 30. And then the last one here is the biceps, right? So leaning back on an incline bench. You could do a straight bench as well. And palms out. Hold that bottom stretch position. Doesn't feel like much at first, but by the time 30 seconds kicks around, getting a good burn in there. Really feeling it. Okay, so probably largely ignore this slide. This is more advanced. But if you want to experiment the last set, once you're warmed up, give one of these a try and see how it feels. For nothing else, it may improve your overall range of motion, mobility. That's what we're after. Okay, so yeah, I already talked about this. Joint pain, stop immediately. Like you can get into trouble here if you're trying to hold a really heavy weight, and it shouldn't be. Like start really light with this, and it's going to start feeling very heavy by 30 seconds, but at a certain point, better to drop the weight and try to force it. All right, so the takeaways. The most obvious step is just to stretch more consistently and probably away from your training sessions, ideally, like I talked about. So that 5 minutes total per muscle group per week could be, all done in one shot, where you do 30 seconds times 5, whatever, for a hamstring stretch for any of the aforementioned ones I shared. We want to get to a point where we're lifting through a full range of motion. Quality, reps, form, we always talk about, does more than yoga because of the weighted stretch aspect. And then maybe, just maybe, try those loaded stretches as a one-off, really lightweight, see how it feels. Because you kind of kill two birds with one stone there. All right. Any questions? I will stop sharing this. What's your biggest takeaway? Or what are you going to try to incorporate? I think that would probably be the most helpful question to ask yourself at this point. And Abby is the expert if there's anything specific to injuries or certain movements. Yeah, Liz. So be more consistent with your stretching, you mean? Yeah. Yeah, even on off days, like don't just do your 3 training days. That's when you focus on everything. Is try to get in the habit of habit stacking some of these with something else you do every day. For me, it's like right after I get out of the shower, I do that hamstring stretch 3 or 4 times. Because that's a daily routine, it's made it more consistent. Yin yoga, Wendy, yeah. Holding poses, like that falls into that static stretching bucket. But I would try adding a bit of weight to really remodel, increase that range of motion. Especially if you have a certain muscle group that feels tighter than it should. That's one technique to maybe expedite that, improve that. Okay. No other questions? Anything to add to this, Abby? Knowing that I usually defer to you on this stuff, I just want to put together this training as a starting point.
No, I mean, let's see, what do I have to add? Like you said, trying to focus on full range of motion with our strength movements is something that's often overlooked in terms of range of stretch. And, a lot of times in my field of work in physical therapy, when a muscle is tight, typically that means the opposing muscle is weak or there's a weakness somewhere. So strength training, once again, can also be, helpful in helping muscles get stretched out when we strengthen weaknesses. So just, going to go back to strength training. as many people want to put it off and don't see it as, it's just so important to keep up with our strength. And it is important to, we don't have to do 30 minutes or an hour of stretching each day, but it is something that we've got to do consistently as well. Just little bits and bites can go a long way.
Yeah, you nailed it. I mean, the number one cause of low back pain is physical inactivity. And people think, oh, I'll get back in the gym once its back stops bugging me, when it's probably their core is weak and everything's tight from sitting too much. And the best solution is to work through it a bit. So preaching to the choir here, I know everyone's on the same page there, but
Yeah.
it's not always a bad thing to have a little bit of knee pain to work through. You might actually feel better once you start training that quad, as another example.
Hmm. Yeah, just from like a recent personal experience, I used to power lift for those that don't know, and I did heavy barbell work, squat, bench, and deadlift. And when I got out of powerlifting, um, I actually started to notice a lot of low back pain when I actually started lifting lighter and not going as heavy. So it just, goes to show you that as we, really push it with the weights and, heavy is relative to whoever the individual is. So we've got to remember that. But it is important to um, strength train once again. Like it's very, and yeah, you don't want to push through an injury or pain in terms of um, like if you're hurt, if it hurts, oh my God, this hurts. Like, yeah, of course, like let's be smart. But like you said, a lot of the low back and the stiffness and the tightness can be less and less and less if we move more, if we're doing more, if we're not just sitting and doing nothing. And once I get better, how are you gonna do that? How are you gonna get better without doing anything? So it's a good point.
Exactly. Anyone else have questions? Is there a certain movement or stretch that you weren't clear on that we shared here? That would be something we can go through. Anything and everything. Now's the time. Don't be shy. Okay, we got neck. Abby, do you have anything good for neck? I have one that requires a piece of equipment that no one's gonna have. So usually it's just like static holds, side head rotations, but
I mean, yeah, like chin to opposite armpit, just, side to side. Just, yeah. If you want to get a traction type of unit that goes above the door to kind of help separate the vertebrae of the spine. To me, a lot of people's necks get tight and sore and hurt is because they're actually improperly lifting, using a lot of their traps when you're doing lat raises, presses, those kind of things. So I would be also considering sending form checks to make sure that those things are in place. But yeah, I mean, just yeah, general opposite, you know, ear to shoulder type stuff. Um, Pushing the head down is going to get the cervical spine, even coming up side to side. So those kind of things will help with the cervical spine and stretching out the neck a little bit in the traps.
yeah, yeah.
Same thing, Wendy. This is the exact same thing I just said. The traps and the neck are really related and pretty similar. So ears to shoulder. I mean, literally just the same things. The neck and the trap are connected. So
And
if you
probably
could
look
have
at your
somebody
phone
push on your shoulder and go opposite way, even better.
and don't get text neck. Looking at your phone too much. Reduce the screen time slightly. Nancy, is this available in the app? I'm not sure what you're referring to. I can certainly provide the slide deck if that's what you're after, or if it's the stretches. It kind of depends on the stretch. What we program for people is not always the same, case to case. So the stretching program, yeah, I can put this into a little workbook that might help in terms of the daily 30 seconds, that kind of stuff. Yeah. There are lots of yoga in the app, but yeah, that's a good idea. And actually, if someone wants to incorporate the static stretching, I can put a mini workout together in the app that could be assigned individually as well. Okay. Make a note of that.
That would be great. Thanks.
No worries. Do we stretch what we aren't working? Oh, yes, on the off days, like anything you want to stretch and get better at, I would do. In terms of post workout, is that what you're talking about? Do you want to expand on that, Suzanne? Yeah, I know you're in the car, so you might not be able to. But... And you're muted, so I hope you're not saying anything right. Oh, okay, here we go. Yeah, okay. So if working legs, right. I wouldn't worry about it in the same workout, but again, on off days, try to hit everything. And I tend to suggest the dynamic stretching before workouts is going to only focus on what we're training. That's how we program the workouts generally. But if you have a bit more time after, by all means, stretch everything. I don't think there's a straight answer for you there. Okay. Anyone else? No? Okay. We can leave it there then. All right. So I'll go to work on a little workbook that shares the static stretching routine, like the simple starting point for this, and then I'll probably program a workout for the extreme stretching, like what to do on workout days to hold those 30-second stretches for only those who really want to experiment with that, because that's kind of next level.
Mitch,
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
there. No, that's okay. So yeah, if you want to do that particular one, but people can, if they don't have this, they can reach out to their coach. But there's a mobility and stretch folder that should be in everyone's programs that you can always choose from with tons of stretch routines. So you hit the plus sign workout, and there should be a stretch folder. If it's not, we can add it to them, and then they can pick even just various, like there's a low back one, there's a hip one, there's stuff like that. But if they want the particular, the science backed one that you showed today, we'll probably have to put that in there. But we can put that one in there, and then they can choose that one as well.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Because we have quite a library already. Because this stuff comes up a lot, right? Where we always have someone dealing with some ailments, so we have a lot of those extra routines, off day, short mobility circuits. So yeah, hopefully everyone has access to that. If you don't see that, it wouldn't be assigned to you unless we've really had a discussion about it, but it would be in the general workout folder. Okay. Oh, Donna, yeah, we've delayed the start of the challenge. Sorry, I should have mentioned that to next Monday, just because of the timing this week. A few people had asked, and it made sense to kind of run it to the end of August. So if you don't have the link for that, so again, it works very similar to the last one, where you are awarded points daily for water, steps, and your nutrition goal being hit. That's the application form in the chat. And I'm not going as big with the prize. Cheryl somehow won back-to-back prizes. So she won the trip to Vegas. Congrats to her. So I'm not sure what we're doing for this one yet, but again, incentivize. I know for myself, this is going to help me stay consistent during the time of year when I tend to slip. So that's the whole idea. Yeah, you should be. I'll add you to the groups over the next couple of days, so I can confirm that. You'll know if you don't see the group on your taskbar in the app, then your registration didn't go through. But I know, Wendy, I saw your name, so I saw a few people entered twice, I guess, not knowing that they'd already done it once, and that's okay. All right. Okay. Awesome. Yeah, thanks for the reminder on that. I meant to put that up front on today's call, but good. If you don't find the warm-up workouts, mobility workouts, let us know, and I'll get to work on the extreme stretching option and the little workbook for how to stretch day to day. Alrighty. Talk soon.